Jewish, Christian, and Islamic holy books mention that creation was done, the entire stars, sun, moon, were all created in a passing motion, less than that of a day. But God took more than 6 days to create the earth, the living things, water, plants, because at that time, earth was considered to be a huge disk around which the stars, sun, moon, everything rounded. So all other things were insignificant, and earth was the center of the universe. This view persisted for almost 1500 years until the time of Copernicus and Johannes Kepler. And you know, Bruno, the scientist who held this view, was burned to death by the Catholic Church. Galileo was imprisoned for holding this view. In fact, Earth is so small that 1,000 Earths can be contained in Jupiter, and 1,000 Jupiters will go in the sun, or 1 million Earths can go into the sun. Sun is a huge star. But there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy 1,000 times as big as the sun itself. And the Milky Way has got a center, a large black hole, which is 4 million times as massive as the sun. And there are 2 billion stars in the Milky Way and 1 billion such galaxies in the universe. Universe is so huge. Light, which travels at 3 lakh kilometers per second, will travel in 1 year 3 into 24 into 60 into 60 into 365 lakh kilometers. There are stars whose light has not yet reached the earth. The radius of this observable universe is estimated to be 46.5 billion light years. So huge. And then, gods of that time never knew the universe or its size or the relative importance of each object. And I do not think that the creation stories has any meaning. Nobody created anything. And in today's science says nothing is created. The matter, the entire matter in the world or in the universe has been there for all times. Matter does not get destroyed nor created. Every matter in the universe can be basically, let us say, brought down to fundamental elements or subatomic energy and mass particles. And Einstein has given an equation, E is equal to mc squared, which shows that matter and energy are interconvertible. So the entire matter in the universe is constant. There is no creation. If somebody wants to term this cosmos as God, not personal God, following the immutable laws of matter and energy, well, we have no problem. But then there is no personal God as advocated by the religions. There cannot be a God because there is a design. Whatever we see on the earth or in the universe is all as per the changes taking place, as per the immutable laws of the universe. There is no lawgiver because moral laws existed for all time, much before Bible or any other holy book came into existence. And even there is a lot of misery, poverty, injustice in the world, which does not warrant the presence of a all-loving, all-powerful, universal God. Further, if we go in for the Christian argument of causative principle, if we go by that everything must have a cause, then God should have another cause. Who created God? So we understand that there is no creator required. And whatever we see in the universe has been, as we said, there all the time. Even humans had to be evolved on a Earth-like planet placed at a distance of a sun-like star. In a planet as big as the Earth, so that air does not get away. There is plenty of water. There is plenty of elements for chemical reaction. In such a planet, all the chemical reactions tend towards or tends from simple to complex, let's say molecules. And we find thus amino acids and proteins are produced, which are the fundamental basis of life. Humans, evolved in the course of evolution. Once living cells was formed by the way we already mentioned. There could be, living things in other planets too. We are not able to ascertain because of the distances. So everything in the universe happens as per the immutable laws of the universe. And we are transient. We just come and go. You see, once, the entire nuclear material in the sun gets finished, the sun will start expanding, and then later on it will, let's say, get away most of its outer layers and finish itself. And maybe a small neutron star will be left by the time the entire planets will go. So all the planets in the universe are set to die. All the stars are set to die once the nuclear fuel gets away. The entire universe will go. But then, there are religions which still believe that there are almighty gods who have been creating us, who have been behind us, looking after us, this, that. The Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Islamic almighties. If there is an almighty, by the very principle an almighty, he is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. There cannot be another almighty. Because if there is another almighty which is not contained in one almighty, then there is something beyond the almighty, and he becomes no more an almighty at all. So by this principle, there can only be one almighty. But we find so many almighties with so many different criteria or laws or nature, and they are being followed. If there is only one God, and which is the only possibility, then everyone is a part of him. Every single human being, every living being in the world becomes a part and parcel of this Almighty. So there is no need for commandments like thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, because you are yours. When you are killing yourself. You are part of yourself. Or when you steal, you are stealing from yourself. But what we see in the world, a good Muslim hates a good Hindu or a good Christian, and a good Christian or a good Jew hates a Muslim. This has been going on for a long time now. If you look at the wars all have happened or still happen because of religious differences. There are wars between India and Pakistan, war between Israel and Arabs, the war between America and Iraq, or America and Afghanistan, America and so many other nations, mainly because of the religious differences. There are even wars due to denominational differences. You find Protestant Catholic wars, you find wars between Iran and Iraq because of one is Shia, one is Sunni. So you see, such wars have been going on. And if a good believer is ready to slit the throat of a fellow human being by thinking that he will please his God and he can enjoy the supply of virgin and supply of all the liquor provided there. There are people who immolate themselves or who become suicide bombers to quickly go up there to enjoy the provisions of virgins and liquor. Or there are other people from other religions who fast or inflict pain upon themselves so that they can go reach heaven and enjoy everything set there. But then we should understand that the entire things that we see in this universe are bound to change. We are not, going to be permanent here. We have got a small time of maybe 100 years. It's a bubble. It is not only human beings, everything. The planet Earth will go, as we mentioned. The entire solar system will go. Everything is going to go. You see, the scientist Brian Cox has mentioned in a recent BBC interview that all the matter in the universe is going to end. There will be a time when the last star finishes its nuclear material and it ends its light. And then, what happens is the entire material in the world or in the universe will be gathered in the big, large black holes. And these black holes are not permanent themselves. They will emit by what we call Hawking's radiation their matter into the empty space, and they will, in a course of a long, long, long period, die themselves. They will get finished. And these photons which get emitted from the black holes, they go into that emptiness, empty space, which is keeping on expanding. There's no light, every star is gone. There is nothing except these photons which are being emitted, and even the small glimmer of these black holes will be so dim that the entire thing is dark. So we find a dark, empty universe. That will be the future of the present universe. But then there are cosmologists who believe that such a state is the beginning of another Big Bang. And now, in the 2020, let's say Nobel Prize winner Roger Penrose have come up with a theory of cyclic transforming, cosmology, whereby he believes that this sort of a state by which every matter, everything in the universe ends and becomes empty, with photons are being emitted into the empty space, that is the beginning of another Big Bang. It's a cyclically it is going on. After the Big Bang, a dense, is a very dense, hot thing that there's a Big Bang, and the universe expands about 80 times in a fraction of a second. When this expansion slows down, what happens? Their matter can remain stable, and the entire energy or photons in the empty space fuse themselves into matter and radiation. And this Big Bang plasma fills up, let's say, the entire space, and from there, whatever matter that we find, the heavier elements, everything gets formed, and then they, by attraction, they all cluster together, become big stars, and then the light is emitted by nuclear reaction. So according to, Roger Penrose, we are going into an empty state, a dark, empty nothingness, or only photons remaining in a dark space. But in his mathematical, calculations, he finds that a very dense, hot, really dense, hot thing, and this empty, dark, fused, or let's say spread out emptiness, when they are raised to their limits, they are the same. By which Penrose proves that this is the beginning of another Big Bang. So Big Bang and big emptiness are cyclic. So there is no creation here. And in that process, matter, whatever that we see in this present form, gets destroyed into another photons and invisible things, and later on, after the Big Bang, when the whole expansion, slows down and it cools, matter fuses into atoms and heavier elements, and stars and things like that are formed. In this pattern of the, cyclic universe, we don't find the place for a God. We don't, feel the necessity for creation. These are all stories that have been, created by people in their imagination, and let us give value only in that way.